I'm Carolyn J. Chalk, and I'm a 12-year breast cancer survivor. And my life creed is to live each day to the fullest and not to waste a minute. My story of discovering cancer in my life is that there was no other woman in my direct lineage that had cancer. So I thought I was living in a safe zone. I had a lump that appeared on my lower right breast one summer day, and that had never occurred before, and nor has it occurred since. So I go to the breast clinic and have my little biopsy done, and several consultations later, and an ultrasound beyond a mammogram, they discovered cancer was stuck up under my armpit. And if it had not been for that lump, there's no telling when we would have discovered the cancer. I felt, when I found out, numb, shock, and an out-of-body experience. It was like, really? And a darkness that you just don't know what to do and who to call and who's going to be your resource team. It was very scary, for lack of a better word. So I had a lumpectomy first. Well, first I had a surgery for them to go in there and find out what they were dealing with, because given where it was at, they thought it was in the lymph nodes already. So I had the first surgery, which really wasn't a major thing. I was back at work in a couple of days. Then a few weeks later, I had the lumpectomy, and that was, the drainage tube and all that lovely stuff that goes on way too long. And then, because of the type of cancer it was, it's negative receptor, I was a candidate for, I'm not a candidate for the post-treatment medications that come with most breast cancer survivors. So I had to go through chemo, and I did that with the couple of different treatment. They call it the Red Devil. That was the first one because it's red and it's a devil of a treatment. And then I went through a couple of other type drugs after that. So everything started in July, and then the chemo ended in March, and then I went through radiation, and then I was done early June, so a year of my life. The chemo room is officially called the infusion lounge. That's the little emblem that's on the door as you went in there. A friend of mine who was also going through cancer at the time that I met because of cancer identified that area as the drip lounge. So everything's dripping, and you walk in. Where I was at was a very, very large room with way too many chairs. You're wondering how can they possibly need this many, but they're usually full, unfortunately. So walking into that room it's cold. And why they keep it cold, I don't know. Or maybe my blood had run out. I'm not sure, but it felt cold to me. And they sit you in this recliner, and they start putting things into your arms and hope that you have good veins so they can get to it. And the nurses are putting on these latex-looking gloves, because if it comes out or gets out, it's very dangerous to be touched, and this stuff is going into my body. I felt it come into my arm, and I'm feeling this throb like somebody had started pounding me, and asked them, am I supposed to be feeling this? But they said that I was fine. They put a nice warm blanket over you, make you as comfortable as possible, and there's a little television monitor there if you want to watch TV or magazines, but I don't know, there's some kind of Benadryl or something they put in it as well. That's not the right word, but something along those lines that put me to sleep. So I took, my husband went with me every single treatment until I started going weekly, and then friends went with me. And they would think they needed to converse with me. But really, they just needed to sit there and read a magazine and let me just be in my la-la land, because it really felt like I had like 10 times more to drink than I should have had. It put me sort of out there. Not everyone is that way, but that's the way it affected me. So I've heard about Komen always, as long as I can remember. I'm not sure. It actually started in Charlotte, North Carolina, here where I live, just a few years, I think, before I was diagnosed. And I have a friend who was a breast cancer survivor that was my mentor during my treatments. And she was very active on the Komen. I believe she was on the board, the whole 9 yards. So my first real experience with Komen had happened through her. I had just had my first treatment chemo treatment a week before the Komen was to happen, the first one in 2003. And she came over after the Komen with the survivor bag with a book in it by someone, and the different paraphernalia, the different gifts and things that are given out to the survivors. And I told her then, I said, I will be at next year's. So that was I'm going to, you don't know where you're going to end up when you start this process, and I was in the beginning of the process. And so that was my goal, was to be at the Komen race in 1 year's time. So in a year's time, my husband and my only daughter, myself, walked the Komen. I'm not much of a runner. So we walked the Komen, the three of us, and held hands as we came across that finish line. And I can tell you that it was a serendipitous moment. It was a very emotional moment to know what we had gone through, and to be with all these women with short hair like mine was at that stage. Women who had no hair, women who were 10 years, 15, 20 years out, was very, very, very inspiring. And I've been in love with that event since. The benefits of what Komen brings into this community and the amount of dollars that stay in this community is phenomenal. And there are women who would not have the resources to participate in early detection, which is key. And Komen plays a major role in that with their fundraising and what they make available in this community.